It was exactly 2:03 in the morning when my phone rang. I almost ignored it. Then I saw my daughter's name on the screen. The moment I answered, I heard nothing but heavy breathing. Then a weak whisper. Dad. Please. Come get me. Before I could ask another question, the call disconnected. I called back again and again. No answer. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside her in-law's house. When her mother-in-law opened the door, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "She's not leaving." That was the exact moment I knew something terrible had happened. I pushed past her, and what I found inside is something no father should ever have to see. My name is Michael Thompson, and until that night I believed my daughter Emily had found the perfect life. She married Daniel only 2 years earlier, and from the outside everything looked beautiful. Their home was large, their social media was filled with smiling family photos, and every holiday looked picture perfect. Whenever I asked if she was happy, she always smiled and said she was doing great. Looking back now, I realized those smiles were carefully practiced, hiding a nightmare she was too afraid to reveal. Emily had always been independent, even after her mother passed away. She became the strongest person I knew. She built a successful career, paid her own bills, and never asked anyone for help. That's why I never imagined she could become trapped in an abusive household. She didn't want to disappoint me, and she believed she could fix everything herself. Like so many victims, she convinced herself tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow never came. The call that woke me at 2 in the morning changed everything. Her voice barely sounded like hers. She whispered my name, begged me to come, and then the phone went silent. I immediately tried calling again, but every call went straight to voicemail. My heart told me something was terribly wrong. I grabbed my truck keys without changing out of my pajamas and drove faster than I ever had in my life. Rain covered the windshield as I raced through empty streets. Every red light felt like an eternity. My mind replayed every conversation I'd had with Emily during the past year. Suddenly, all the little things I ignored started making sense. The bruises she claimed came from bumping into furniture, the canceled family dinners, the nervous smile whenever Daniel answered questions for her. I hated myself for not seeing the truth sooner. When I arrived at the house, every light downstairs was on. I pounded on the front door until someone answered. Daniel's mother slowly opened it with an irritated expression, as though I had interrupted her sleep instead of responding to an emergency. Before I could speak, she coldly said Emily was resting and that I needed to leave immediately. I told her my daughter had called begging for help. She folded her arms and replied, "She's not going anywhere tonight." Something inside me snapped. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Daniel rushed into the hallway shouting that I had no right to enter their home. I ignored him completely. I screamed my daughter's name, while searching every room downstairs. No one answered. Then I heard the faint sound of something hitting the floor upstairs. I ran toward the staircase. Daniel grabbed my arm, trying to stop me, but I shoved him aside. At the top of the stairs, I found a bedroom door locked from the outside. That alone made my stomach turn. Why would anyone lock someone inside a bedroom without thinking twice? I kicked the door as hard as I could. After the second hit, the frame cracked open. Emily was lying on the floor. She wasn't moving. Her face was pale. Her arms were covered with bruises and cuts. One side of her cheek was swollen, and dried blood stained her sleeve. Empty prescription bottles were scattered nearby. For one terrifying second, I thought she was dead. I dropped to my knees, checked her breathing, and thanked God when I felt a weak pulse. I immediately called 911. While waiting for the ambulance, I stayed beside her, begging her to keep breathing. She slowly opened her eyes, looked at me, and whispered the words that still haunt me today. Dad. I'm sorry. She thought she had failed me. She thought surviving abuse made her weak. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. The paramedics arrived within minutes. Police officers followed close behind. Daniel insisted Emily had accidentally fallen down the stairs. His mother claimed she suffered from depression and imagined things. Their stories fell apart almost instantly. The locked bedroom door, visible injuries, broken furniture, and Emily's medical condition told a completely different story. At the hospital, doctors documented dozens of injuries in various stages of healing. Some bruises were only hours old. Others were weeks old. Medical staff quietly informed detectives that this pattern strongly suggested long-term physical abuse. Emily finally felt safe enough to tell the truth. It began shortly after the wedding. Daniel slowly isolated her from friends and family. His mother constantly criticized everything she did, from cooking to the clothes she wore. Every mistake became an excuse. For humiliation, phone calls with me became shorter, because someone was always listening. She wasn't allowed to drive without permission. Eventually they controlled her money, her medication, and even her phone. Whenever she tried to leave, Daniel threatened to destroy her career by spreading lies about her mental health. His mother convinced neighbors Emily was unstable, making sure no one would believe her if she asked for help. The emotional abuse slowly became physical. Every apology was followed by another assault. Every promise to change became another lie. The night she called me, Daniel had violently shoved her into a dresser during an argument. She hit her head and briefly lost consciousness. When she woke up, she secretly found her phone hidden inside a laundry basket and called the only person she believed would come without asking questions. Me. That call saved her life. Police recovered surveillance footage from nearby cameras showing me arriving only minutes after her call. Investigators collected photographs, medical reports, text messages Emily had secretly saved, and testimony from neighbors who had heard arguments for months but never contacted authorities. The evidence became overwhelming. Daniel and his mother were arrested. During the trial they continued blaming Emily, insisting she invented everything, but facts speak louder than manipulation. Medical experts explained her injuries. Digital records showed years of controlling messages. Witnesses described hearing screaming late at night. The jury reached a guilty verdict after only a few hours of deliberation. Emily spent months recovering physically and emotionally. Therapy wasn't easy. Some days she blamed herself. Some days she wondered why she hadn't left sooner. I reminded her every single day that surviving abuse wasn't a sign of weakness. Escaping it required incredible courage. Today she has rebuilt her life from the ground up. She smiles again. She laughs without fear. She has her own apartment, a new career, and friends who truly support her. Most importantly, she finally understands that real love never demands silence, fear, or pain. Sometimes we still talk about that phone call. She tells me if I hadn't answered, she doesn't know whether she would still be alive. The truth is, I believe she saved herself the moment she decided to ask for help. I simply answered the phone. If you're watching this and something about this story feels familiar, please don't ignore that feeling. Abuse doesn't always begin with violence. It often starts with control, isolation, fear, manipulation. No relationship is worth losing your safety or your dignity. If even one person finds the courage to ask for help after hearing this story, then sharing it was worth it. And as a father, I'll leave you with one final thought. If your child ever calls you in the middle of the night and says, "Ask questions first, please come get me," don't just go.